I created an AI game called AI GameRush, which consists of 6 main stages and 1 bonus game. I started creating this game on September 30th, 2025, and finished it on November 18th, 2025. Today, I am going to show you a short behind the scenes. Before we start, I want to give you a short background story. This game was first released on August 22nd, 2025 for the Minimax AI Agent competition, where I won a general award. Now, I have recreated the entire game from scratch using Google AI Studio. The first step is to share your idea. Since my game consists of 6 main stages and 1 bonus game, I developed the game 1 stage at a time. I had to finish stage 1 before moving on to creating stage 2, and so on. My English is not strong, and explaining complex logic is difficult for me. That's why I relied on our friend Gemini to correct my grammar and improve the structure of my game ideas. I simply sent Gemini all my concepts, the structure, rules, mechanics, and logic of my game, and Gemini provided me with the best structured and most well-explained game plan. I then copied and pasted that plan into the code assistant. This was only the first step, the base idea. Not everything you send to the code assistant will be followed exactly, which leads to the revision phase. You need to revise every incorrect detail one by one. One of the major problems I encountered at this stage was that the ball could pass through the walls when they transitioned to invisible. Another issue was the 3-second interval between the visible and invisible walls. The initial result was random and did not follow the exact timing. This is why I had to explain it in detail. Something like this. Again, I cannot show you the exact words I used to fix this problem. I started this game on September 30th, and I would need to manually scroll up through my Gemini chat history, which contains hundreds of thousands of words. Even if I had the time, the sheer volume of text would cause too much lag. After I finished fixing all the problems, my next step was to fix the transition from the title screen to the life-saying message, and then to the main game. I then added sound effects to all interactions, such as the transitions and the buttons. Following that, I added background music to the life-saying message screen and the main game. For the music, this is one of my example prompts for the background music for the life-saying message. I simply explained the tone and the feeling I wanted, and the code assistant did the magic. After putting in the music and sound effects, I created the main audio controller on the title screen, the audio menu, which controls everything. Next is the second stage, Mystical Orbs, which is a shooting game where you need to destroy 23 orbs. Just like in stage 1, the workflow was the same. I sent all my ideas, the logic, and the mechanics of the game to Gemini. It corrected them and gave me the best explanation for my game, which I then copied and pasted into the code assistant. I used this workflow for the entire game, including all revisions. I always went to Gemini first before sending anything to the code assistant in Google AI Studio. I think this is the best strategy because the AI understands the well-structured language immediately, making up for my English skills. The problem I encountered in this stage was the visual look of the grenade. I went through many different visual designs for the grenade, but this is the final look I decided on, including the flame on top of it. I also focused on the transition from stage 1 into stage 2. The code assistant did a great job combining the yellow shockwave and the radio wipe for this transition. Next up is stage 3, Jumping Ball. This is my favorite and the hardest stage that I created, as I added extensive logic, mechanics, and especially physics to this game. This game has 2 missions: to reach the 23rd floor and to complete the basketball challenge. I knew that the code assistant would have difficulty with this stage, which is why I initially created the game with only 1 mission: getting the ball to the 23rd floor. There is a yellow flag there signifying the end of the game. I then proceeded to fix the floors and their positions, added moving floors, and refined the ball's jumping and landing animations. Finally, I added the collision logic between the grenade and the ball. This was the hardest part of the game, adding the physics, and it took me a long time before I achieved a good animation. After finishing all of that, I added the 2 buttons and the dice. The dice rolling animation was one of the hardest things to explain. I also added a collision animation between the rolling dice and the ball, which also took me a long time to get a good result. Overall, this is truly my favorite stage, and finishing this game was very satisfying. Next is stage 4, Mystery Images. This was the second hardest stage I created for the game, and it also required a great deal of explanation before I could completely finish it. Since I could not upload any images, I had to literally explain each image's visual appearance. Explaining each visual element was truly difficult. These are the final results for their visual images, but before getting there, here are some of their old visual looks. I found some screenshots in my folder. For the smiley emoticon, I don't have any saved photos of its old look, but I believe it was similar to this, only the eyebrows were problematic. The woman emoticon's hair was also one of the things the code assistant struggled with, requiring many rounds of trial and error. After fixing their visual designs, I worked on the transition to the next mission, the image puzzle. The hardest part of this was correctly coding the shuffling of the 16 pieces and getting the associated sound effect right, but I ultimately achieved a good final result. After fixing that, the final step, making them into a mystery image, was relatively easy. If the player wants to see all the images, I added a mini game where they need to search for a password. If they read the hint, they will get a small clue that the password can be found in the audio menu, specifically in the voice section. The password is 090498. If you listen to the audio from the start until the end, you will know that this number is the date when Google was founded. You will also learn that you can just write Google or Gemini, and it will still be accepted as correct. I added this simple Easter egg so that only people interested in learning where the number came from could get the easy password. Next up is Stage 5, in order. This stage is relatively easy and plays like a normal game, meaning it does not require special animations or a difficult explanation. I simply added a mechanic where, if you like math, you tap the orbs in numerical order, and if you don't like math, you tap the orbs in alphabetical order. I also added a hint button in the middle of the game area for players who are struggling to find the next sequence. I decided to make this hint button unlimited, but I designed it so the player needs to scratch the top surface of the button before it becomes clickable. Next up is Stage 6, Snake X Dragon. This game is also easy and does not require a difficult explanation. I simply introduced the snake and copied the visuals of the mystical orbs and the grenade from Stage 2. Then, I added a dragon to serve as the snake's enemy. The rules for this game are straightforward. You just need to eat 23 mystical orbs. If you explode the grenade, you will be deducted 5 orbs. If you hit yourself, you will be deducted 3 orbs. And if you hit the dragon, you will need to restart eating all 23 mystical orbs again. That's it. After you finish the 6 main stages, you will now get your results. You will see your original results, the portal menu, and the bonus game, Jumping Ball Fire Castle. I created these elements one by one. First, I created the victory menu as the initial result screen for the user. Then I added the portal menu. This was the point where I added the stars to both the victory menu and the portal menu. I also went back to the life-saying screen in each stage and added the visual timer and, most importantly, the star award. I made sure to fix all these game mechanics before adding the bonus game, Fire Castle. I split the Fire Castle game into 2 parts, the practice mode and the endless runner game mode. I decided to do this to make use of the star reward earned from the 6 main stages. If you do not get all 6 stars, you will not gain access to the endless runner game mode. Creating this game was also challenging, making it the 3rd most difficult stage I created. I based it on Stage 3, Jumping Ball. Using that game's base logic for the location, character, and ball, I just changed the visual look to match the new theme. Adding abilities was not very difficult. The explanation was quite smooth. However, the fire visual was one of the hardest parts to implement. In the practice mode, I went through many visual concepts for the fire before getting the best look. The 2 buttons were not hard to create because I simply copied them from Stage 3. After finishing the practice mode, I then created the endless runner game mode. This was also not that difficult because it is just a loop. I simply created 5 different types of floors that loop throughout the entire game. And that's it. Go and run as far as you can.